All right, welcome back to this week's Next to Nature with Dr. John Long, and we are talking about plants. And as the cooler days approach, we've already had a frost. People are going to be thinking about how to protect these plants.
That's right. Everybody knows when they hear that frost warning, bring all your plants inside and things like that. People that have been around long enough know that they take that warning seriously.
For sure.
Because if you're not careful, you're going to get like some really bad damage to your plants, either ornamental plants outside or some of those plants that you've had outside during those warmer months. And if you forget about them, you may lose them. And it's because of that. Now, frost affects plants because of the fact is obviously plants have water within their cells and their leaves and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when that temperature drops, what do you think that water does?
Freezes.
Same thing it does in your refrigerator. It freezes, and when that happens, it starts breaking those cells apart and damages the plant.
Well, as far as your plants outside, you know, right here we're looking at azaleas.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying that the woodier type plants are maybe not as susceptible, but you can still do things to help them.
Right. These are outside. These are very static, so you're not going to be able to pick them up and pull them in the house. Obviously, azaleas are a little bit more. They're thicker. They're more of a woody or stemmed type plant, but they are not foolproof on frost. They may take a little cold weather.
Let's talk a little bit about what you can do. I know that a lot of folks, I've seen them put blankets or old sheets or something down over top of them.
So there's several things you can do on your plants on the outside. Like you said, I take tarps. Tarps are pretty cheap. You can go get them anywhere.
Yeah.
And they can handle more moisture than if you take a blanket. A blanket, it'll get wet and then you got to pull it off and then you got to dry it and things like that. A tarp, you can put on it overnight, pull it off when it warms up, because you don't want it on there when it's the sun's out like it is now, and then you're starting to generate a lot of other mess that could happen under that. Is that heat is really held in during a warmer part of the day, you may get some susceptibility to other things you don't want in there, disease and whatnot.
Makes sense.
So pull those off during the warmer part of the days, but make sure you put them on. I put mine on right before it gets dark.
Oh, okay.
Make sure they're held down good with bricks, because you don't want them, some nights it's a little windy, may blow them off, and then you got trouble there. Another thing is that you can heavily mulch around your plants.
Yeah.
That mulch helps hold in the heat on those roots. So it's not to say don't cover your plants, still do it, but if you put a heavy mulch down prior to it getting wintertime, you're going to find that helps the vigor of that plant during those colder months too.
All right, let's talk about the maybe potted plants.
Right.
They're pretty sensitive. You want to take them inside.
Right. I always use the rule of thumb, the more tender it is, the more care you got to give to it. If you've got something that's really light stemmed, really fragile, I would bring it into the house, keep it near a window, and rotate it when it's next to a window. If you ever notice, like a plant will start growing toward the window, make sure you turn it where it's not just like leaning, because a lot of times you get it to lean too much, it might break depending on how weak it is. Some plants, like you said, a little bit more cold, hardier plants that, again, do your research, you can put them in the garage. Make sure they're close to a light source still. That it doesn't have to be, fully illuminated. It can be just near a window. If you, like I said, the more tender the plant is, make sure it's warm, make sure it's kept inside, but also that light source. You still got to have that light source for it to continue growing.
And don't forget to water them.
No, yeah, right. Don't forget to water.
Need water.
And it's like, it's like we are right now. Today is an example. It's not a prime example, but how cold it was this morning.
Right.
Then the 40s. Well, now it's going to get up to the 80s by the afternoon or thereabout. Take those plants outside. Let them get as much sunlight as they can in that warmer part of the day during those colder months. Pull them back in. You're not going to hurt the plant if it's outside of that freezing temperature. So it is good to get those plants out and let them get a little, where they don't get cabin fever and make sure that they get as much light and warmer temperature as they can before you take them back in the house. So.
There you go. Good way to take care of your plants this fall and winter. All right, that's it for this week's Next to Nature. We'll see you back here next week.